Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Browns QB Deshaun Watson called out for Steelers comment. Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson was criticized after a recent comment he made about the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. The potential bulletin board material came when Watson was breaking down a play against the Steelers during the most recent episode of his QB Unplugged show. The biggest thing is get the defense in what we want to get the defense in, and that's a base defense, especially a team like Pittsburgh, Watson said. When they're in base defense, they don't play too many coverages. It's very limited on what they're doing. They kind of vary scheme to how they play. So once we had this situation, alright cool, we got them exactly how we want it, and then you just run the play and react. Watson was honestly assessing his process and likely didn't mean for the comment to seem like a shot at the Steelers. Nonetheless, many decided to remind him that he hasn't had a lot of success against the Steelers in his career. Watson is 0-3 in his career against the Steelers, with 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. He's averaged 243 yards per game in those contests. Deshaun Watson hasn't beaten the Steelers yet in his career. He shouldn't comment on our defense, one Steelers fan wrote. Bottom 5 QB. Others had similar criticism, referencing his record against Pittsburgh. Whatever base defense the Steelers are using against Deshaun Watson, keep running it. It seems to work, another fan said. It's not the first time Watson has discussed the Steelers on his QB Unplugged show. Previously, he showed a lot of respect for Pittsburgh and how they do things, while analyzing the signing of veteran QB Russell Wilson. Pittsburgh is a good organization. It's crazy for me to say it because I'm a Brown. I'm just keeping it 100, Watson said. At the end of the day, you have to give respect where respect is due. Tomlin is going to have them boys right. It made sense for Wilson to go there. They are going to compete. The Steelers and Browns are not getting much respect in the AFC North race. The Baltimore Ravens are the favorite at plus 110 per BetMGM, followed by the Cincinnati Bengals, plus 175. The Browns are plus 550, and the Steelers are a long shot at plus 900. Watson played in just 6 games last season. He had season-ending surgery in November to repair a fractured glenoid bone in his right throwing shoulder. Watson has been working hard to get back on the field and recently started throwing again in Los Angeles as part of his rehab. It's been very, very good, Watson said on April 4. The process is day-to-day, and we've just got to take it one step at a time. We can't do anything too crazy, and we can't jump the gun and try to do too much. The biggest thing right now through this process is load management and just continue to find ways to just get better and just stay on that course. Watson said he expects to be ready for Week 1. The Browns need their $230 million quarterback on the field. The 2022 blockbuster trade that cost the Browns 3 first-round picks to land Watson has not paid off yet. Due to a lengthy suspension and last year's injuries, he's played in just 12 games with the Browns since the move. 2 players Steelers must avoid in 2024 NFL Draft. As we approach the 2024 NFL Draft, there will continue to be endless speculation about what teams are doing and how they will attempt to improve their rosters for not only the upcoming season but the future overall. That includes the Pittsburgh Steelers, who will make their first pick in the first round at the number 20 overall selection in this year's draft. The Steelers have already had quite an interesting offseason, starting with free agency. Their quarterback room underwent a massive overhaul, beginning with the signing of Russell Wilson to a cheap deal, thanks to the Denver Broncos owing loads of cash. Then, they surprised everybody by trading for Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields. This move should help meet one of the biggest needs for any team for the upcoming 2024 season, where the Steelers won't have to attempt to trade up in the draft or hope for a quarterback to fall to them. That doesn't mean that Pittsburgh doesn't still have plenty of needs that could be met with their 7 overall draft picks. they'll likely be looking at several positions on both sides of the ball, including center, wide receiver, offensive lineman, and defensive back. But they should also be careful in their selections, avoiding players that may not fit the Steeler brand of football that's been instilled through head coach Mike Tomlin. Now, here are 2 players that the Steelers should avoid in the 2024 NFL Draft. It's likely the Steelers will hold off on drafting a receiver in the first round, which isn't uncommon for the franchise historically. That could mean they'll be waiting until the second, possibly even third round, in hopes of finding a decent replacement for the now-traded Deontay Johnson, who is now with the Carolina Panthers. It's likely that Florida State's Keon Coleman will be available, at least with the Steelers' number 51 overall pick. But they should seek receiver help elsewhere. At 6'4", 215 pounds, Coleman is a big-bodied receiver who can use his size and strength to win contested catches against defenders. However, he lacks certain agility, limiting the number of routes he can run, per PFF. Also, possibly his biggest weakness is that he often lacks the ability to separate from defenders. Coleman likely won't make it out of the second round due to his potential, but again, the Steelers might need to look for a more polished receiver to help Wilson and/or Fields in what is set to be interesting season at quarterback for the team. The Steelers need to start looking toward the future of their defensive line, specifically at defensive tackle. While Keanu Benton ended up being a nice second-round selection from last year's draft, the line is starting to age and suffer through injuries with the likes of Cameron Hayward, 34, and inconsistencies with Larry Ogunjobi. LSU's Mazone Smith, at 6'6", 315 pounds, would normally seem like a viable prospect to fill that void on the interior and provide some much-needed youth. However, there are reasons to be concerned about the former Tiger. Firstly, he lacks a lot of reps thanks to a shoulder injury in 2021 and an ACL tear in 2022. Secondly, multiple scouts, including the Draft Network, have noted that he plays with a high pad level when defending the run, allowing offensive linemen to win in leverage battles. Plus, as an interior offensive lineman, he lacks the ability to fight off double teams too often, losing at the point of attack. Smith has a lot of traits and potential that NFL teams are looking for, but they are not refined whatsoever, likely due to his lack of snaps. He's a gamble pick, and one the Steelers shouldn't waste a pick on. 2 projected early-round offensive linemen visit Steelers, report. Oregon center Jackson Powers Johnson was in Pittsburgh on Wednesday, April 10 for a pre-draft visit with the Steelers, according to the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's Brian Batko. The team also hosted Notre Dame offensive tackle Blake Fisher for a pre-draft visit on the same day. Powers Johnson is the consensus top center in the draft, while Fisher is projected to go later on the second day. The Steelers have kept any interest in Powers Johnson close to the vest, despite remaining without a starting center headed into the draft on April 25. According to Sports Illustrated, the team did not meet with him at the NFL Combine and only sent offensive line coach Pat Myers to Powers Johnson's pro day. Still, considering the team's vacancy at the position, it's reasonable to assume they are seriously considering drafting a starting center this year. On February 23, the team released Mason Cole, who started at center in Pittsburgh for 2 seasons. Cole remains a free agent. Nate Herbig, who was listed as a guard but served as Cole's backup, remains on the roster. Recent draft projections place Powers Johnson later in the first round. And you, fan, what do you think of the situation of Jackson Powers Johnson? Leave your opinion in the comments.